Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of In the Spotlight. I'm thrilled today because I finally get to talk to this kid. He's had an outstanding football career at Shelton High School. Um, One of the best kickers you'll ever see. We're proud to have him on. His name is Nick Andrade. And Nick, I want to thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
Nick, I can remember, it's crazy how time flies, but, I can remember when you were born. I think it was like September of 2001. Hard to believe that, you're out of high school and you've been out of high school for a couple of years now. But let me just ask you first off, I know like you were a big, football and soccer were your big sports. Where did the love of sports start for you? How old were you?
Day one. As soon as I came out of the room, I was a huge sports fan.
Yeah. And let me ask you, I think you started with soccer first, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
When I used to visited my mom's mother, my dad's mother I used to go outside with my grandmother and just kick the soccer ball back and forth with her all day.
Right. And I know you played a lot of travel leagues in soccer. What would you say, like, how old were you when you first played in an organized league of soccer, like, youth soccer?
I would say like 4 or 5 years old. I started at Shelton Youth Soccer Program up at Capewell.
Right. And now, correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, you were a goalie at times as well?
I basically played all over. Then when we got the Renegades, when we were like fourth and fifth grade, I believe, they
Right.
got me. I was playing everywhere. Then they got me playing goalie. I was a tremendous goalkeeper. I actually still have the shirt. It's like I think it was a Joker, a
Right.
customized shirt. It had a Joker to intimidate the other players. I had my last name on the back with my number. I loved it. It was I scared the other kids when I was playing keeper, and then when I was on the field, I was scaring everyone I played against.
Right. And, you played soccer a lot. Like you would play the fall, the winter, and spring, correct? So you were playing
Yeah,
year round.
and the summer as well.
Right. Now, how old would you say you were when football started for you? Like when I think you played flag football your first year, correct?
Yeah, like I would say I started soccer a year before I started football.
Right. And how did football come about? Was it just your dad signed you up, or was it something you asked him you wanted to do? How did that all happen?
Um, I think like kids in my school were saying, "Hey, you playing football?" And I was like, I was always into sports. I played baseball. I played up to 5 sports when I was little. And I think football is obviously one of them, and I just loved it since the day I started it.
Right. And I've always been impressed with Shelton's flag football program. It's good. It's like a good introduction for football. You don't do tackle right away, but you kind of learn some of the basics of football. Would you say that first year really helped you to move on to I think you even did Pop Warner before AYF as well, but would you say that played a key part in you being able to move on to Pop Warner?
Oh yeah, Shelton flag football. They taught you the basics of the game. They taught you how to play safe, so you're not gonna get injured from the sport itself. They're gonna teach you how to tackle correctly. They do the job correctly, where you enjoy the sport, you have fun, and they input the safety of the game as well.
Right. You mentioned you played like 5 sports at the time. I think you also did karate a little bit as a kid and stuff like that. And that's really good for like your endurance and your stamina and stuff like that. They
Balance
have,
as well.
yeah, balance as well. So would you?
Balance, flexibility,
Right.
all that. Everyone still wonders to this day, like, how am I so flexible? And I was like, I stretch every day. I did karate. They brought us. They like the first 10 minutes of the class was just stretching, and
Right.
they did different stretching techniques, and I'm flexible from it.
Right. Now, were you into basketball at all as a kid, or not as much as the other sports?
Not as much. I got into it when I was a little bit older. I played some koozie. Um, Not naturally born at like I wasn't good shooter. I was somewhat decent at dribbling, but I was a good defender. For me
Right.
being short, I was always boxing kids out. I was able to jump. I got good rebounds for me being short, but I wouldn't say I was a bad basketball player, but I'm not gonna say I was good. I'll say I was like average.
Right. And you also played some baseball as well. You played little league and stuff
I
like that.
played the little leagues, yeah.
Right. And now I'm trying to remember. I could be wrong. Wasn't your father like an assistant coach when you played baseball? So that had to be fun to play, a season or two with him. He's been a big fan of yours, obviously, followed you through everything. So that had to be pretty fun for you as well.
It was. And then I also had my cousin join the team as well, and he was a pitching coach. He played at Central, and he was a pitcher at Central, and he taught me how to pitch, and I started pitching too.
Right. Now, let me ask you, I've always asked this question as a pitcher, like, what do you do to like keep your arm from getting hurt and stuff like that? I mean, would you be sore after each game you pitched?
I was 7, 8 years old.
Yeah, so it's
I
hard
don't
to
think
remember.
soreness was a thing in my dictionary when I was that young. He's playing 5 sports, jumping around a different field every other weekend, going to one football game, to one soccer game, to one baseball game, to one lacrosse game. Then after going to karate, I wasn't sore until now.
Right. Let's you talked about staying in shape and stretching a lot in karate, but in soccer, you got to be in shape to play the whole game. I mean, you're running up and down the field, you know, you have to have a lot of endurance. Did you guys do like a lot of running drills in practice when you played in your travel leagues and stuff like that just to stay in shape?
Our coach, what we did was when the season started, he got us to condition like as a whole unit together. We all conditioned, we all challenged each other. And
Right.
then as the games went on, we naturally just became conditioned because the games we played. And then he also gave us like, hey, if you win this game, no conditioning, or if you
Right.
lose this game, extra conditioning, stuff like that. He penalized us for the games we lost, and he rewarded us for the games we won. I lost you. I can't hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
There we
Yeah.
go.
Okay. Back to football, Nick. Something interesting as well is you start Pop Warner out, and like anything else, Pop Warner is really where you learn all the techniques. You learn how to hit. You got to learn the fundamentals in Pop Warner because in high school you can't always spend a lot of time on hitting and stuff like that. So just talk to me about your first year of football and who was your coach your first year of Pop Warner?
Ooh, it started off with Coach Lever. We had
Yeah,
like 3 different coaches back my first year Pop Warner tackling wise. It started off with Coach Lever and Coach Paul Blanco.
right,
Then I think Lever left us because his kid couldn't stay with us because of the weight issue. So he
right,
left. Paul Blanco, I think he stayed with us, and another guy. I can't think of his name. I was young. I don't remember now. But
right,
we had 3 coaches. It was basically like teaching the kids how to play. Um, a lot of kids though just wanted to play running back, quarterback. They didn't know any other position, and it
right,
was kind of rough. Where I want to play running back. I want to play running back. I want to play quarterback. When they play it, you gotta learn how to take the hit too, because you can't just play running back and score a touchdown every play. You
right.
got you gotta take hits. You gotta get knocked down. You gotta get right back up. First down, second, third, fourth.
Right. And what position did you play your first year?
My first year, I was actually a running back,
Right.
and I was one of those kids where if you hit me, I don't care. I'm gonna get back up. And that was the thing. Like kids would was complaining, saying, "Why is Nick always getting the ball?" I'm like, he was the one getting back up and taking the hits. And
Right.
also scoring touchdowns too.
Right. And did you play any defense your first year as well?
Don't think so.
No.
I personally don't think so until I switched to AYF and I started playing a lot more defense.
Right. And you only did play 1 year of Pop Warner, right? And you went right over to AYF?
I think I started with a Pop Warner flag football for a year, then I jumped to Pop Warner football, tackle football. Then I
Right.
jumped to AYF.
Right. And let's get into AYF a little bit. I think for most of your AYF career, you played for a guy by the name of Ken Roberts, correct?
Good old Kenny Roberts. I love the guy.
Yeah. So talk about Coach Roberts a little bit. He was a tremendous coach at Newtown, great assistant coach at both Newtown and Shelton. Just talk about him a little bit and what he brought to the program.
Coach Kenny Roberts was a unique coach. Us being fifth graders, he would act like we were varsity players. But
Right.
at first, he started like because Pop Warner and AORF are still separated. He wanted to make us teach us the game the first year, and just all about fun, learning the basics, all that.
Right.
Getting to know the kids, getting to know where they can play, what's best for them.
Right.
We ended up going to the championships game. And in fifth grade, we had this Sundays were game days in youth football.
Right.
Mondays, we had film. You don't see much fifth graders back then watching film, improving,
Right.
hey, this is what we can get better, improve as a team. Oh, this kid scored, everyone celebrates, all that. Fifth grade, we just wanted to have fun. We did that. We won games. We went to the championship game. And then
Right.
after that, Coach Kenny was like, okay, we have a talented group. Let's improve this. And we did. We went to the championship game every year and won it our seventh grade year.
Right. Which we'll get to soon. And let me ask you this, Nick. When did did you kick a little bit in Pop Warner, or was it really AYF where you started kicking?
Fun fact about me starting to kick, I actually took one of my best friend's job at the time.
Right.
I think it was sixth grade, sixth or seventh grade. I visited my friend, and he was the kicker at the time, kicker and punter. We both
Right.
played soccer. We both carpooled, going to soccer games, to football games. I was over at his house playing some FIFA, and his dad was like, "Hey, you guys want to go to the field and kick some football?" So I was like, both of us, both soccer players, we were like, "Why not? Let's go." He asked me to kick, and I started kicking, and I was
Right.
like, "Oh, I'm actually good at this." And I started doing it more and more. Did it at practice. I'll show up to practice early. I'll kick, and the coaches noticed, and they're like, "These are points. 2 points in youth football.
Right.
No team. No, I can't say no team. It's actually a lot of kickers now in youth football, but at the time, I was like one of the fewer kickers in youth football, and those 2 points were huge.
Right.
And if I can get that all the time in youth football, those 2 points add up.
Right. And now, did you punt at all, or did you
I
just kick in the beginning, like
I
just kick extra points?
I started just kicking extra points, and then naturally I became the punter and then the kickoff guy.
Right.
Because other kids wanted to kick as well, and then if you remember Jake Breton, he was one of our captains at Shell in high school. I'm gonna expose him
Right.
here a little, but I took his job by him kicking a negative 10-yard kickoff.
Right.
And it's always a highlight in my head because he always says, "Oh, kicking is easy," and he kicks negative 10 yards on a kickoff.
Right. So let me ask you this. What's rare about you as well is you did a lot of things, mostly everything with your right, right-handed and stuff, but you kicked left. You were, a lefty kicker. Talk about that too, because that's an adjustment when you're a lefty kicker, how you stand, how you position yourself. Just talk about how is it difficult being a lefty kicker at all?
Naturally, I always kicked lefty. Even in soccer, I was always a left-footed kicker. But in the classroom, right-handed, throwing a football right-handed, throwing a baseball right-handed. The only thing that was difficult was learning how to kick. Like going to the camps, they will only teach it to the righty kids.
Right.
In my head, I had to flip it, and okay, I do the opposite. So like, I'm gonna get a football rope. It's in my car.
Right.
For football, for punting, you have to think about it like a clock. So for a righty, you want to have it 11 degrees and like 3 degrees down.
Right.
For a lefty, you have to completely flip it. So you have to be at 1 o'clock and 3 degrees down.
Right.
And it was just basically flipping the way they were teaching me in my head and putting it on the field and onto the football.
Right. And Nick, we're going to get to your high school career, but you'd be a big factor with that. But back to AYF a little bit. One of the things that your team, had a big rivalry with. They had a big rivalry with Monroe. It was a great rivalry. You guys played some intense games. finally your seventh grade year, you guys were finally able to knock them off, win the championship. Talk about that seventh grade team, because that was a special ride for all of you. I think even the parents, they had a bond because you guys had been together so much. Just talk about that seventh grade team a little bit.
That seventh grade team was, I wouldn't say strongest, but one of our strongest teams we had. We were just all clicking together. The coaches were clicking all together. It was
Right.
just all connected. The pieces been to connected. Like I think in sixth grade we had some injuries that just broke some pieces. I was injured. I broke my
Right.
shoulder that year, and that year I think we had like no injuries into the championship game. All of our key players playing against a team that we hated. They hated us. It was just a
Right.
great matchup. And that team was no one could have beat us. If we went to regionals, I believe we could have won the whole regionals and went to nationals.
Right. And just talk about the feeling when you guys won that championship. I mean, it was an emotional day. I think everybody just, was so happy, and, it was jubilation and stuff like that. But just talk about what that feeling was like for you personally.
I can feel like it was yesterday. It was I can't even explain how good that feeling was. Just beating the team that kept beating you every year, regular season and the championship game. It's unexplainable how that feeling was.
Right. And you had mentioned, you were close with a lot of those players on the team. And guys like you, Jake Roberts, I think Jake DeLimo, guys like that, Carr, you guys were around for so long together. I mean, there's definitely a friendship that builds with playing with each other all those years,
Oh,
correct?
for sure, yeah. It's the
Yeah.
brotherhood that gets built together playing through grade school, from middle school then to high school.
Right. And Nick, the interesting thing was the following year, because you guys had just continued to build the program, you had so many eighth graders play, there had to be two eighth grade teams. So for the first time, you guys had to be, you had to break up. I think Ken was still your coach, but you
The
had to break up, and that had to be a tough thing for all of you.
the way that they did the eighth grade team, they did split it, in fact. The thing is they did a draft night with all the coaches. They couldn't split up the team evenly. So they couldn't think, okay, he's my son, he's on my team. They
Right.
had to completely split off the teams, and they had a draft night. I don't know what draft number I was. I'm
Yeah.
not interested about it, but I was fortunate enough to be on Coach Kenny's team, and the way that season was I hated it. I bet if I asked some of my older teammates, they can agree that they hated it.
Right.
We both made it to the playoffs. We both made it to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we both lost that playoff game. But if we both won that, we both had to play each other.
Right. Which would have been weird. Yeah.
That would have been so weird. I don't think I would have been. I probably would have, obviously, if we had to. But it would be weird playing your friends in a official game, in a youth official game with refs and everything, in a official playoff game.
Right.
It would have been weird.
Right. And that just goes to show, though, how good of a group of guys you were, that both teams made the playoffs. That's, unbelievable.
If I'm not mistaken, I think the other team lost by a field goal, and we lost by a touchdown. I know the other team lost by a field goal because I remember watching that field goal.
Right. So now, Nick, you entered freshman year of high school. Now, let me ask you this, Nick. You had to make a difficult decision, because it's either you play high school soccer or you play high school football. In the end, you chose football. And what made you choose football? Did you just think, like kicking wise, you had a good shot of getting a scholarship someday? What was the reason behind it?
I was actually good friends with Joe Dioria, the old Shelton varsity coach, and he actually coached me when I played youth soccer and premier soccer. He told me, you are fortunate. You learned how to kick a football. You're very good at it. This can bring you into college.
Right.
I wasn't a smart enough kid to I'm not gonna say I wasn't smart. My grades got better now, but in high school it wasn't clicking well as it is now.
Right.
And fortunate enough, soccer, you need a higher GPA than football does.
Right.
And he was like, "Hey, you can actually go farther in football than you can soccer." And he recommended me to play football. And it hurted him because he knew how good of a soccer player I was. He knew how a big of an impact I could have made on his team and
Right.
probably gotten a state championship. Who knows? But he was like, pick football. It's gonna hurt me, but pick football.
Right.
And
And that
I
says a
picked
lot about
football
him as a person because, he thought of you, the person and the kid more than he did
instead
about
of
the
the team.
player and the team. Yeah. Which, that's a very unselfish thing on his part. And that's a great job by him. Uh, so Nick, let me ask you this though. You did continue to play soccer in the off season though, correct? You would play
Of
like in the
course.
spring. Right. So
I played with my premier team in the winter, the spring, and the summer. And I don't know if we told you this, but we were 3-time state championship winning team, back to back
right.
years.
Yeah, which is just unbelievable. And I mean, let me ask you, Nick, which sport do you find more challenging? I mean, they're both challenging, but which one would you say is tougher for you?
More conditioning wise, soccer.
Right,
Because soccer, you're running for 45 minutes nonstop. Football, yeah, I might be a kicker, but I also played others. I played safety, I played wide receiver. There's breaks every other play. And
right,
constant subs. Soccer, I think they changed the rule now. But when we played in that championship game, when you came off, you can't come back in until next half.
right,
So in that championship game, I didn't step off the field once. We
wow,
went into overtime in those 3 games too. I didn't step off the field.
right. So, and again, you really have to be in great condition to, you know, play the entire game like that. That's why,
You're
when
playing for 90 minutes straight.
yeah, and when you watch it on TV and you see the way these guys play, it's just unbelievable how good
Oh,
they are.
and you're taking a nap in between the games too.
Yeah. So freshman year, I believe your freshman team went undefeated, or I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure you guys went undefeated freshman year, correct?
My freshman team went undefeated, and the varsity team, I think they lost 1 game, but
Right,
we did end up going to the state championship game.
right. And that varsity team, you just talked about, very underrated team too. I mean, they had just tremendous amount of talent. Uh, Coach Jeff Roy, who we're going to get to more in a second, but I mean, he really did a tremendous job with that program. Freshman year, who was your head freshman football coach? Was it Robbie Milne, or had he moved on by then?
He was actually assistant coach. We had Mike Barone as our head
Mike
coach.
Barone, right? Okay. And Nick, you kicked a lot that year as well. One of the things, Nick, that
I kicked too much. Sorry
yeah,
for cutting you up. I kicked too much. I had to play for 3 games: the freshman, the JV, and varsity, back to
right.
back to back days.
But Nick, at the same time, you got to feel good about that because it shows that they valued your kicking a lot. And one thing about a kicker, it's almost like a closer in baseball. A closer comes in the ninth inning. Guy like Mariano Rivera, who is almost automatic. You could win when you have that weapon. Shelton, whenever they were down by a couple points or down by 3 points, the game was never over because if they could get in good field position, they could have you come in for a field goal. So you play a big part. People don't realize sometimes just how big kicking is in football. I mean, whether it's NFL, college, high school, wherever, kicking is a very important part of the game.
They don't. It's like, yes, I might step on the field once in a blue moon, but special teams is a third of the game, and it's points. Points matter.
Right,
Punting too. Punting, I'm not scoring any points, but field positioning is huge.
right. And Nick, the thing of it is too is like I said, it's not just kicking extra points. You had to punt as well. Which one do you enjoy more, punting or PATs?
It depends on the game. If I'm
Right,
punting too much in one game, I'm like, I want to kick some field goals. I need to get some points on the board.
right,
And if I'm kicking too many field goals, I'm like, damn, I'm gonna get a good punt in this game.
right. And do you ever feel pressure when you go out there, or do you just kind of not think about it? You just got to kick because punting, you got to make sure it doesn't get blocked, and then kicking the extra point is pressure because you could be down by a point, or it could be tied, and the extra point could win the game. Do you ever think about that, or do you just have to go out there and kick?
I go out there and it's repetition, muscle memory. I have to do my job. Like Bill Belichick says, do your job.
Right,
Just do your job.
right. now your junior year, Nick, you're the, both the punter and, the kicker. Uh, I think you kicked off as well. And then a couple times they would spell you if you needed a break. But I mean, you
Mhm.
basically did all the kicking for Shelton. You knew that was your responsibility. That was your job to do. I mean, what do you do like in the off season? Do you like in the summertime? Are you at the field a lot kicking and practicing? What do you do to stay fresh?
Well, off season, I did track as well in the off season.
Right.
But yeah, I was at the field basically every weekend kicking. And if I couldn't go on the weekend, I'll try to go sometime in the week and get my reps in.
Right. And now you talked about track, which I was going to get to. Track again. You're a very talented kid. You're very fast, stuff like that. What events did you run in track? Did you run the hurdles or long jump, any of that stuff?
I was a long jumper. I was a sprinter and a relay runner.
Right. And which one would you say you enjoyed the most?
I enjoyed my relays. I loved my 4x1 and I loved my long jump.
Right.
But I loved my relays more because my relay team was amazing. I loved them all. And we broke records. We broke the school record, and I don't know if we broke a state record. I know we broke one state record. It was the 800-meter SMR.
Right.
And we went to nationals for the 800-meter SMR and the 4x1.
Right. And the thing of it is too, Nick, is track has become so huge in the valley. Derby is big in track. Shelton is tremendous. I mean, really, the track programs, in the valley, in the state, have just really taken off. And I mean, it's become like a big time sport, probably more so than it was maybe 30 years ago.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right. So now, senior year, you get some, a couple accolades that were well deserved. You made all area. I think you made all area as a junior as well, but you made all SCC, I think, for the second straight year in a row. And then the big one, of course, you were selected to the all-state team. Just talk about those accomplishments because, like anything else, you want to be successful at what you do. And I'm sure, when you're selected for those teams, you feel like, what, I did my job. I did what I'm supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. Getting awarded those was honestly like it's like when you finish a job, like that satisfaction,
Right.
like you finished a job, job well earned, job well done. It felt amazing just being one of the best in the state or being one of the best in the conference at my job, and knowing there's still room to improve. Like I did my job this year, gotta be better for next year, and vice versa.
Right. And what would you, I mean, obviously making all state would probably be the biggest highlight, but you guys play in a tough SCC league. I mean, every team is good. There's no nights off, week in and week out. You're playing the best of the best. So to make all SCC 2 years in a row, I mean, that I would think that would have to be right up there with the all state as well. Correct?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And Nick, one thing about those Shelton teams, I mean, I know you guys didn't walk away with a state title, but you guys were as good as can be. You guys won your league a couple times, and you guys were in the playoffs every year. You had a pretty darn good career, as far as, team-wise went. You guys win the AYF in 7th grade. You're in the playoffs every year. I mean, again, I know like you would have liked the championship in high school, but it doesn't take away from anything you guys accomplished as teammates and as players.
Yep.
Right. So Nick, now you're entering your, I want to say, is it your junior year at what school is it again?
College. Hartwick College.
Right. So let me ask you, what do you look forward to going into that season? Are you going to be in the mix to kick a little bit that year, or how's it going to go?
Hang on.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
My
problem.
mom's screaming food's ready. I'm like, I kind of can't do something. I'm doing something right now.
Right.
Junior year, I'm excited for it. Because COVID took away my sophomore year.
Right.
Freshman year was a little mix mash. I don't even want to talk about it.
Right.
But I am in the mix of it. I still like I just had shoulder surgery. I'm starting to get back into kicking again. Starting off light with just extra points and just light punts.
Right.
But I talked to my coach. He was like, I'm not there's no spots that's guaranteed your spot. You got to earn it. And I'm like, yes, sir, I know that.
Right.
And even my coach knows. He was like, I'm not worried about you. I see the videos you're kicking every weekend. I see on camera when you're at the field every other day kicking.
Right.
So like he knows I'm a hard worker. He knows that I'm gonna be right out there all the time kicking.
Right. And I'm glad you brought this up because I meant to ask you this. How personally, how did the pandemic affect you? Because I mean, you weren't able to have a sophomore season. You know, I know you lost some family members to COVID as well, which, was very heartbreaking. But how did it affect you personally?
It affected me, like, yeah, I lost my grandfather to the pandemic, but I couldn't be just sitting around, stop crying, and just being upset about the pandemic. I had to move on with my life, get better. As soon as I can't say that, but as soon as like I heard the bad news, I had to go right to the field and kick and just get all my emotions out.
Right.
It was the best thing for me. It's just I have to move on from it.
Right. So
And
you stayed busy even though you couldn't really do much. You did go to the field. You tried to stay fresh. It was unfortunate. Now, did you guys have they had talked about having a little of a spring season? Were you guys able to have any of that this year?
we actually were in the mix of it was Hartwick College, St. Fisher's College, and I think Utica. We were supposed to have a 3-game schedule in the spring. We didn't make it past our third practice because of the COVID. Our
Right.
team got an outbreak, and most of our team had a quarantine. I was fortunate enough I wasn't on that quarantine list, but
Right.
still, it was unfortunate. Some of our seniors couldn't play, and a lot of the other sports, like I think basketball was going in. They were doing well. They were actually winning a lot of games. They got cut short because of COVID.
Right. So now, Nick, let me ask you, just as important as it is athletically, academically, this is what you're going to school for is, to get a degree and have a nice career. What are you majoring in right now in college?
I am majoring in computer science, but I do want to get my master's.
Right. And, what's the most challenging thing between high school and college? High school is a lot of work, but I'm sure college, is 10 times harder, correct?
Honestly, the only thing that was harder was the time management.
Right.
I
Yeah.
haven't really experienced the full college experience, but it's mostly the time management because your class is depends what class you have. It can be an hour, it can be 2 hours, but
Right.
you're sitting in your dorm. You're sitting in your dorm. It's trying to figure out. Okay, I gotta get this done before. Because in high school they give you an assignment. Oh, it's due tomorrow. Like it's
Right.
add on. College, they're like, okay, this is due next week or next like 2 classes from now, and you have class every other day, so you have
Right.
time. But with football, it's a job, literally a job. You wake up, you lift, you go to your class, you eat, you go to
Yeah.
practice, you watch film, and you do your assignments, and you go to bed.
Right.
It's a job that you don't get paid for.
Right. But at the same time, you're always active. You always have something to do. So I mean, the good thing is,
You're always busy.
yeah, you're always busy and it makes the days go quicker, I'm sure. Sometimes I'm sure they're longer, but it definitely makes time go by. Nick, going forward, I mean, what is the goal for you these next 2 years, just football wise? I know you want to be as good as you could be, but what do you just hope to accomplish? I mean, I'm sure there's got to be a part of you that just wants to have fun as well.
Oh, for sure. I just want to have fun. But my main goal is not missing a single kick in a season.
Right.
Not missing a single kick in the season. If it gets blocked, I can't do anything about it. If they go through my line, if I'm a second early or if I'm late to the ball and it gets blocked, that's on me. But
Right.
if my release time is fast and my line's not blocking, I can't control that. But I'm going to do the best I can to have a perfect season. I'm going to have the best I can to have my farthest punting average this season and just have fun overall.
Right. Now, let me ask you, when you do graduate college, I mean, is there ever a goal to come back and maybe help with the Shelton football program or coach soccer? I mean, Do you have any desire to be a coach someday, or are you not thinking about that
I
right
always
now?
had I always have coaching in the back of my head because when I was on the high school team, I had to do community service to go the next year.
Right,
I always coached the youth program, and I think
right,
it was junior to senior year. I coached the eighth graders. I coached the eighth graders how to kick. I had this one kid that's currently a junior and a current 5-star, Cristiano Rosa, at Sheldon High School.
right.
I started him training, and now he trains with me.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. And it's got to be good for a good feeling for you to see a kid you worked with and see what he's doing right now in high school. And you feel like, that's like pretty rewarding to know that you worked with him and he's having success.
Yeah, I call him my son because he's Portuguese. He's literally like me. Yeah,
Right.
it just gives me joy that see him kicking the ball, having fun with it, and I helped him. I to showed him the baby steps so he can run with me next to me when he kicks.
Right. And Nick, before we go, what advice would you give to somebody who, whether they want to be a soccer player, football player, baseball player, whatever it might be, what advice would you give them to somebody who is like a fifth grader like you once were, who's hoping to advance their career?
Have fun with it, enjoy the time you have with your friends, your teammates, but also learn, be better. Try to be better every day, basically.
Right. Well, Nick,
And yeah.
right. Well, Nick, I really enjoyed this. This was a lot of fun. I look forward to following your career the next couple of years. You had a tremendous high school career, and I really do wish you the best of luck, and we'll be rooting for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, there you have it, folks. That's Nick Andrade, tremendous kicker throughout his career at Pop Warner, AYF, high school at Shelton High. I mean, he was just such a invaluable part to that program. You see what he's doing today. I mean, he's very articulate and he knows what he wants to do. It's kids like Nick Andrade who inspire you to just keep being the best that you could possibly be, because he sounds like the type of kid who's never going to settle for anything less. For In the Spotlight, I'm Mike Kenichi saying goodbye, everyone. All right.